Disclaimer.
Hey everyone, I thought it'd be something kind of cool to talk about. So I want to kind of focus on the idea of how Takara Tomy and Hasbro collaborated on a lot of stuff. You know, Hasbro had their input for the Western market, and now a lot of times when they kind of work together on a lot of these ideas that we've seen so much throughout Burst, and especially how kind of the relationship kind of develops for some sort of concept or idea, and kind of, you know, if Takara Tomy did it, how did they perfect it? So I think in the first video, kind of going over it in this kind of potentially maybe a series, I want to focus on the idea of electro Beyblades, electronic Beyblades, or like battery powered Beyblades, right? And I know in the past we've seen that, you know, with basically like these really bulky like bays and everything that kind of made like these like light patterns or sounds, or even like, you know, other stuff also like RC stuff. I really want to just focus on Burst because I feel like Burst is like the best development of this. So in the early on years of Beyblade Burst, they had something called Ripfire, and what Ripfire basically was like, more or less, it's like the same layer and everything, and the bottom part was all cross-compatible with all this other stuff. So unlike, let's say, the electro stuff before, like the battery power stuff before, it was actually cross-compatible with the mainline stuff, which was a big difference for how they handled a lot of the Burst stuff. Because in the past, a lot of these spin-off concepts, all this stuff was never really compatible with the original stuff, unless there's some case-by-case basis. But, you know, what I thought was interesting is, like, for an example, with Storm Spryzen, there would be, like, the knuckle disc, right? But with the Ripfire one, it would be kind of like this like reference, a bigger version of that as like a Ripfire disc, and I thought that was kind of cool. Well, the bottom of it is really just, you know, like the main highlight because it lights up, and it's a little bit of a shoddy job because there's no real gimmicks other than just the lights. You know, you still got the reference to, like, I guess kind of the original shape of Spriggan, though I do wonder if it was potentially possible that they could have also inserted the original gimmicks, or maybe there was something with costs or something that they couldn't afford to. But, you know, for the first one, it was kind of interesting. It was mostly just like little lights and battles, but I thought that was kind of cool. Where it began to develop a little bit more was during Evolution. We had remote control Beyblades that was also kind of light up like Ripfire. You basically kind of connected to the app and you'd kind of control it, and it was like, okay, the drivers were like super bulky, and I'm pretty sure they also made a mistake because I remember the Genesis and Fafnir, they swapped both of the bottoms. So technically, I think Fafnir has the reboot bottom and the Valtryek has like the nothing bottom. But, you know, especially when you consider how it developed to what got finalized, you know, this was like kind of similar to what we saw eventually with like stuff like Hybrid and Ignition, you know, kind of like that whole concept, like, oh, this motorized part or whatever, you know. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really cool. I don't think that driver in itself Hasbro did the best execution on. I would think that it was a little too bulky and stretched out, all things considered. But we eventually get to now Turbo, where they basically had Ripfire Slingshot. Now actually, it kind of proved what I was thinking earlier when I thought they could insert gimmicks into this, and they had the whole thing where they actually did have the Slingshot ability and the whole thing of the light up, and had the gimmick of, like, for an example, this had Orbit, so Orbit was a free moving ball. The developments that they did, I think, you know, for the most part, they were kind of getting around to that idea. Now, before we get to the Takara Tomy side, we did kind of regress a little bit. This was Ripfire Speedstorm. So obviously Speedstorm does technically not have any gimmick, but for just kind of like this crappy looking tall bay, it was probably not that smart of an idea. But where I think we got really the finalized and perfected concept of not only, let's say, a motorized driver or a light up driver, was the idea of Ignition and Hybrid. So Ignition released on Regalia Genesis, and with the Hybrid driver, you know, when you do that shoot, you know, basically what'll happen is that it'll activate and go around the stadium with strong speeds and spin. And I believe, like, if you're really strong, you know, you could even go, like, again, like, around. And I thought, wow, that is really, really cool that they managed to put kind of like this perfected concept where, if you remember, like, the original RC one, whatever, obviously it's not remote control, but it's a lot more squished down. Instead of it being more of this flat tip shape, it's like a lot more kind of like of this sort of cone shape. I thought that's actually really awesome that they were able to kind of develop it and perfect it. Plus it had the lights and everything. I thought it was cool. Then after we get to Imperial Dragon, and something I really like about it is that it'll go around, but if you do like that strong shoot, it'll go back. I do think always, I feel there could always be potentially like an argument made that there are limitations to what maybe Hasbro can do for the market, maybe. I also just think at the end of the day, I feel like always Takara Tomy, if they ever take a concept of what Hasbro does, they always like perfect it to what they can do. And maybe, you know, truthfully, maybe Hasbro does kind of get those limits. But at the end, I do love to see how, you know, the Beyblades develop in production and how not only were these things like very bulky, but also compatible with the main base. And also to quickly mention as well, you know, it also doesn't have the same thing where the discs are customizable unlike the Hasbro stuff. But all things considered, I don't really think that mattered too much. And yeah. It's also kind of funny when you think about it, because for the command and for the regalia that was in Hypersphere, you would have thought they would have done like a Hypersphere Ripfire, but they never actually did, which was kind of like an odd thing to see they would actually skip out on. I don't even understand. And they were committed kind of to it, almost, but yeah. And then that's kind of it, you know. What did you kind of think of like this whole concept of the electric kind of performance dip and driver stuff? You know, I always thought it was pretty neat, and I think, I'm not too sure how far you could have really gone with it, right? Because obviously, I'm assuming there's a lot of costs just to do these in production, but, you know, all things considered, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Anyways, I want to just say, you know, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know this video is a little bit light, but, you know, whatever gets me talking about Beyblade, I do always enjoy to do, and, you know, brings back good memories. So, thank you all for watching. Take care, everyone, and that'll be it for now. Bye.